Here we go. Yeah. Welcome to Be an Impact Podcast. I am Jessie Stevenson, your host. Today we will meet Ninette Bennett. Good afternoon, Mrs. Bennett.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jessie. How are you today?
Good. Now, Mrs. Bennett, please tell us about yourself.
So personally, again, my name is Ninette Bennett. I am a wife. I am a mother of a beautiful cat. I'm a cat mama. I'm an aunt, a sister, a daughter, a cousin, and hopefully a really good friend to a lot of people. Professionally, I am a business owner. I own a company called Manage Your Logistics, which provides operations support, and project management to other small businesses. I am a native of Philadelphia. I attended the Philadelphia High School for Girls, better known as Girls High. I graduated in 1993, class of 237, and then I also attended Drexel University for my graduate and undergraduate work. So I'm a Philly girl through and through, and I am also a member of Sharon Baptist Church.
What is your current life path?
Quite honestly, I learned a long time ago that it's a good thing to have plans, but my plans oftentimes are altered by where God wants me to go. And it sounds really cliche, but it's not a cliche at all. It's actually just what's honest. Currently, my life plan is to build my business. I love what I do. I love operations. It's exciting for me. It gets me out of bed. I love owning a company, but more than that, I like getting people from where they are to where they want to be. So looking at what their dreams are, what their vision is for their business, and then helping them put a path together, helping them get on that path, putting that plan in action for where they want to go. So my current path really is helping others to get on their path and realize their dreams and have their visions come to fruition.
Did you have any detours before you reach your current path?
Yes. So both professionally and personally, but quite honestly, I'm grateful for them because they're what got me where I am. People oftentimes think the people who had a positive impact in their lives, like they want to get up and they're giving a speech and they want to thank their parents, and they want to thank their teachers, and they want to thank their family, and that they should, right? Like you should honor those people. You should honor your pastors and all those people who have poured into your life. Great. But I actually am grateful for all of the people who I've interacted with negatively too. I'm grateful for all the bosses that quite honestly sucked, that were horrible toward me because they taught me what not to do. They taught me who not to be. And, oftentimes what you don't like, sometimes like you can see it's a mirror put in front of you, right? So that you can say, that's not what I want to do. That's not who I want to be. And so I've had many detours. And first I'll talk about professionally, like how that happened professionally. I am a workaholic, and that's not necessarily a good thing. People kind of wear that as a badge of honor. But I do take a lot of pride in what I put forth for people, and whether that's for clients that I have now currently owning a company, or if I am employed by a company and I am a W-2 employee, I'm going to give it my all, because my name is attached to it, and I'm working I'm doing my work unto God. And so not that it's going to be perfection at all, because clearly I'm not perfect, but I'm going to give you my best, right? I'm going to be 2 feet in. I'm going to do everything that I can for you. I'm going to try to be a woman of my word. And when I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Or when I can't do it, I'm going to be upfront about it. When I make a mistake, I'm going to be upfront about it, right? Those things to me also foster confidence when you can be honest about things. But anyway, I digress. But I've worked for people who just took from me, right? And they poured into me but not purposely. Again, they taught me what not to do, right? How not to be. But there have been probably fewer times where people have purposely poured positivity, growth, development, looking out for me. Most times people are like, oh, you're going to give 100%? Cool. I'm going to push you. You're going to give 120%? Cool. I'm going to push you. And what that meant was I was doing more work for a company than I was for developing myself, investing in my family, being there for my family. And I noticed that I got very sick in 2009. I had a double pulmonary embolism. I had multiple clots in both of my lungs, and I was dying. I was put on critical care, and I was there for 9 days. And some of my staff came to see me, but not one person from the home office came to see me. I didn't get a flower. I didn't get a fruit basket. I didn't get any of that. And not that shows my worth, but what it taught me was it's about what you give them. It's not a symbiotic relationship, and it should be. And when I talked to the president of the organization I was working for, he was like, oh, I thought somebody else took care of that. No, they didn't. But really, you as the president, and you talking to me, and you're telling me that you're pouring into me. If I was that valuable to you, if I'm as valuable as what you say, then you're going to back that up with a deed, right? And so I realized then it was just about what I'm able to give. And then that followed in other organizations that I worked for, where I just started to understand, especially as a Black woman, that it was about how I took care of other people, how I took care of situations, but very little about what was, how that affected me. And so I stopped giving as much. And it doesn't mean that I didn't do my job. I do my job very well in anything, but I realized that, especially with being sick, God forbid, I didn't get up off of that hospital bed. It'd be like, oh, that's a shame, and that's dead. So the next day, what's happening? What are we doing? How are we continuing what's happening? And I wanted to have more of an impact than that. And I realized that I had to first have that impact within my circle and with my family and my friends and the people that I encountered, and then with the people that I worked for and worked with, right? So that it's not just giving them the stuff that's in my head, but how do I give them a piece of me? How do I leave with them something that's not necessarily tangible, that's not quantifiable, but something that changes their lives, that impacts them for the better. And so I started to think about what that meant. So I've had those numerous detours with work to get to this place. So we call them detours, but I actually think that, it wasn't a straight line, but it's what I needed to learn and what I needed to know in order to get here. And then personally, Lord help me. When I met my husband, and this was very early when we were dating, I looked at him and I said, Lord knows I wouldn't want to have to go through everything that I went through to get to him, but it was absolutely worth it. Because I've had some great relationships, and I've had some pretty challenging relationships. I've had some emotionally and mentally abusive and financially abusive relationships, but they got me to the place where I'm a good wife, and I can be a good wife and understand my purpose of being a wife because of that. So yes, I've had detours, but I don't regret them because they've led me to this place, and I'm happy about
that. When did you first imagine your current path?
It was when I was at my last kind of 9-to-5 job, my last W-2 employment, and I realized that I could not do the job the way they wanted me to do it. So we were at odds because, again, I take a lot of pride in what I'm doing, but I serve people. Like, my job is operations. And to a lot of people, operations when they think of operations, they think of something that's really robotic. They think of, the nuts and the bolts. And it absolutely is. It is the infrastructure, it is the foundation, but it's absolutely about serving people. And you can't do that with a robotic spirit. Like, you have to have a heart for people, an understanding of operations. You have to see the big picture. You have to see how the cogs fit in. But a lot of those cogs are actually people, and the effect is on people. And so you can't necessarily just be like checking off boxes. You have to see how those boxes interact. And it's about engaging people and re-engaging people and helping them to re-engage with your mission, with your programming, with whatever that is. And so I realized that I couldn't do the job the way that they wanted me to. And so I said to them, hey, if this is the job, great. That's wonderful. But this job and the people that this job affects deserve someone who can do this job the way you want them to do it, because I can't, right? And of course, later on, they realized that they needed, kind of probably more of a mix of what they were asking for and what they were getting. But anyhow, so I told them that in kind of my mid-year conversation. And so at the end of the year, I separated from that employment. I left. I didn't go back for the next year. And I did not know what I was going to do. And, but I would pray every day. And I started driving for Uber, to just have some income coming in, doing something and being able to help people. Right. And every day I would pray for my driver. For my passengers. I would pray for the other drivers on the roads that didn't want to get in an accident. They didn't want to get in an accident with other, with passengers. And one morning I was praying and I was like, Lord, I want to be a part of something amazing, something miraculous, like something that changes lives. That is like, oh my God, but I don't want a job. I don't want a 9-to-5. I don't want to be. That's just not for me, right? Like, first of all, I have ADD, but secondly, like, because I'm not speaking against having a 9-to-5. That is great. Like, it's needed. That is what some people are called to do, and that's perfect. But I knew for me, I just couldn't. It wasn't what I needed to do anymore. And so, I was praying about that. Let me go back. Before then, the summer after I left my last job, I saw a former colleague. He used to work, he had my same position at another school. And I saw him, and he left the school like my first year. And he's an attorney. And he's like, Ninette, you should do operations for law offices. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, I had no clue what that meant. I was like, what do attorneys need with operations? Like, what is he talking about? And I have a close friend who's an attorney. And I actually had to introduce the two of them. And I called her up and I was like, hey, this is what he said. What do you think? And she's like, oh my God, yes, because attorneys don't think that way. We need somebody that thinks the way that you do to help us out. And I said, look, let me intern with you, get all in your business, all in your accounts, all in your files, like really figure out, because as an operations person, director of operations, COO, whatever it is, you need to know how people think so that you can anticipate what their needs are so that you can take care of it so it's not something that they're worried about, right? And so I did that. I interned with her and got all into, her accounts and figured out what attorneys needed. And she's like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to introduce you to all my attorney friends. And I got no calls. I was like, okay, all right. So fast forward to praying one morning about wanting to be a part of something amazing and not wanting to have a job. And one of my former vendors that I used to work with called me, and he's like, what are you doing now? And I was like, kind of started a company. This is what I'm, working on. And he said, I think that my business needs somebody with your skills. What do you think? And I was like, okay, like the very same day that I prayed that prayer, I got that call, like within hours. So I put together a proposal of what I could do. I met with him and his wife, and so I left my old job in June of 2016. I interned with my friend starting in like September, October, November of 2016. I started, actually met with that vendor and his wife on my birthday, January 17th of 2017, and I started working for them in February 2017. So the actual birth of my company officially, I got my my first paying client in February of 2017, and have been going ever since. So that's how it happened. It was kind of like a little, I would say happenstance, because I wasn't thinking about my own company. But I had this old colleague who is now a really good friend and a client tell me, to kind of start this business. I started this business. Things were put in place. And then last year in April or May of 2019, he called me up and he's like, hey, I know we're friends, but I think that I need somebody like you on my staff. Let's figure out how this can look, preserving our friendship. And we've been able to preserve our friendship. I've grown with his team. His team has grown. It's wonderful to see how that has come 360. But yeah, I would have never imagined that this is where I would be and how it would have happened. But here we are.
So did you make a plan for your current?
I made a plan after the fact, right? So like, I didn't make a plan about having my own business and then go out and start my own business. It kind of spiraled into, let's see where this goes. And then as it started to grow, it was like, hey, I need to put some things in place. And quite honestly, there's still some things I need to put in place. There are things that I tell my clients to do that I haven't done yet. But I know the big picture of what I want to do, and I let that govern what I do. Yeah, I let that govern what I do.
So your life experiences prepared you for the current plan.
Oh, absolutely. I have been blessed with some really amazing bosses and mentors and people who have poured into my life. I have amazing leaders to model myself after. Thankfully, I have a very strong faith. And so those things have allowed me to really be steadfast in my goals. But then also, I am, and this is not braggadocious at all, but I am gifted to do what I'm doing. I am purposed and gifted to do it. And so that combination has helped me, even though I may not always be as prepared as I need to be, as far as doing things. I am prepared in my thinking because it is how I think. It is how I operate naturally. So that helps.
So when you got your first client, that's when you became fully committed to the current path?
Actually, no. When I interned for my friend who's an attorney, I think that's when I went and got my EIN and formed in my business. I, thought through my name, got a logo and all of those things. I did that before I ever had a paying client, because I started to understand that was where God wanted me to go and where I wanted to go. I love the fact that I am a really good manager. I'm a really good leader, and that I pour into people and not try to hold them back. And so to me, that was a part of being being a part of something amazing, helping to change people's lives. But riding through Philadelphia, especially as an Uber driver, and seeing all the places that needed development and some of the places that were being developed, I'm like, Lord, is that what you want me to be? Do you want me to be a part of this kind of community impact? What is that you want me to do? I couldn't see that part. I couldn't see how it was going to happen. But I was kind of 2 feet into it, so much so I was applying for jobs. I was applying for operations jobs, and I would get not a call back. I've been on operations for a long time. I did my graduate work is in a program that they don't even offer anymore, which kind of makes me feel old. But it at Drexel, and it's in operations. It is operations research. It's a master's of science degree, and I concentrated in statistics initially to do outcomes measurements for youth programs, but with working with youth programs, got more and more into the operations side of it, right? And so that's how the operations took off. But I was always 2 feet in to having the business. I just didn't really know what it was going to look like. Oh, maybe I'll be working with boutique and individual law firms. Okay. And that didn't pan out. Now I do have a client that is a, kind of a boutique. It's a small law firm. But yeah, I was always 2 feet in. I just didn't know what it was going to look
So when did you truly trust the process?
like. Miss Jessie, every day it is trust the process is so funny, especially in Philadelphia, right? We use that term to mean, to be coupled with a lot of things, right? Like the Sixers used it. I used it through this whole thing, quite honestly, because it is hard to go from a 2 week every day, every 2 week steady paycheck. I was an assistant principal. I was making, a pretty good salary, to nothing, right? And then to, okay, now you have to build clients, but you have to be, you're dependent on when they pay you. And so depending on their cash flow or their integrity, right, you're waiting. And I've waited sometimes 75, 90, 120 days for payment. And when I started this, I said, okay, Lord, this is what you want me to do? Cool. I'm doing. I'm all in. I'm excited. I can see some things. And I said, and I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust what you tell me. I'm going to trust what I'm going to trust what you do. I'm going to trust you. So when things got tight, which they really, really got tight, and mind you, I got married in 2017. So I started a business and I was getting married, paying for this wedding. And, I had a really weird thing happen with my finances in 2017. So an $8,000 payment I was supposed to get disappeared. And that was the money to pay for my wedding. So I was like, oh my God, like, God, I can't. And I would be thinking about it. And so it would come back to my memory. But I'm going to trust you. You said you're going to trust me. And so I would just be walking sometimes and be like, but I'm going to trust you. I would start to get the, kind of the woe is me, like, what am I going to do? And it would be like, but I'm going to trust you. And sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes I would be like, Lord, I'm going to trust you. And I would open up my laptop or I would look at my email and my client has sent me a payment. Okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you. Sometimes that didn't happen and it would be another couple of weeks, or it would be, I'm gonna trust you, and then I would have a conversation with, my then fiance, or even, after we got married, and he'd be like, "You haven't talked about finances in a while. Like, what's going on?" And because I also had to learn, right? So I have this business side of me, and I had to learn how to be a businesswoman. But I also had to learn how to be a wife. I got married at 41. So I was well established as Ninette Cooper, and doing my thing and doing it the way that, in my box, and doing it the way that I always did it. But now I couldn't do it that way because I needed to be Ninette Bennett, and I needed to be this man's wife, and I needed to also trust him as my husband and share things with him and be vulnerable. John, I don't have any money. John, I don't know what I'm gonna do. John, I can't pay, my car note this month. And I had to be, and that was hard for me. It may seem easy to some people, like, girl, you better let that man take care of you, but it was very hard for me because I've been taking care of myself for a long time. And I felt like I was letting him down. Like I done left this this well-paying assistant principal's job, and yeah, he makes a good salary, but I done walked away from what I was making. So I felt guilty sometimes, like, how could you do that? And now, now you're going to leave yourselves in a position where you can't pay your car note. And now you have to ask him for money, but you left, like you walked away from your job. So how do you walk away from your job and now think that it's somebody else's responsibility to take care of your needs? So those are the things that would go on in my head. And I would have to silence that talk and say, but I trust you. I trust you, Lord, that you gave me this husband, right? Like, he's who you have for me. He's my Adam. I am his Eve. Like, you gave me him, and you gave me this this company. Like, you gave me this idea, and you gave me this purpose. You gave me these skills. I'm gonna trust you. So I was applying for jobs, and like jobs that I could do with my eyes closed. They were operations jobs. I worked at a museum in Philadelphia for 10.5 years. So I have a lot of experience with working in museum. I applied for an operations job in museum. When I tell you, they didn't even call me back. Like, they didn't even give me an email saying we received your application. Nothing, radio silence. And I applied for things like that I could do. Like, I would tell my best friend what I applied for. And she's like, "Nett, you can do that job in your sleep." Absolutely. Not even an acknowledgement that they received my paperwork. And I said, "Okay, Lord, I hear you." And things, even when things like after I started my business and things had gotten tight, my husband was like, "You may have to get a 9-to-5. You may have to get a regular job. Like, we can't go broke. Like, we can't, like, you're going to have to do something. If your client's not paying you, you're going to have to start working for them." And so, like, there was all these learning opportunities of trusting God, of trusting processes, but then also of saying, like, no, I trust this client, or I have faith that they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to get money in for me, right? But there was this larger lesson to learn of trusting God, but then also figuring out our marriage and, like, how do we trust each other in finances? So I said to him, I'm gonna apply for a job. I promise you I won't get it though. I'm going to apply for a job that I know I am super qualified for. I promise you I won't get it. I won't even get a call back. I won't get an acknowledgement that they even received my paperwork. Sure enough, applied, nothing. And I said, I'm not going to, and I said to him, I'm not going to get, a regular job. That's not what's for me. I'm not going to get it. And I thank God for blocking that, right? Because sometimes we can do what we know we're not supposed to do when we we supersede God's plan, and we're like, well, I'm gonna do it my way, and he lets you do it so that you fall. I think that, that's one of those times when God was showing me that he knows my heart, because he knew that I knew that it wasn't going to work out. But I had to show, some other people in my life. Long story short, even though it's already been a long story, didn't get any of those jobs, got more clients, client started paying more regularly. I got more clients and more opportunity. And my husband actually started making, even more money, and opportunity for even more money. So yes, trusting the process is something that I have done from the beginning, but it's an everyday reminder. It is, it's like I'm in a perpetual state of being saved. I'm in a perpetual state of trusting the process. It is every day a choice. Trust the process, Ninette. Trust the process. I have a client right now that's acting kind of funny, when I'm having to make the decision on whether I am going to continue with that relationship. And it is, but then the thought is like, how do you replace that income? What are you going to do? But it's trust the process, because I know that I have a purpose in what I'm doing. And, we may be at the end of, I may have given them all that I can give to them and gotten all that I can get from them. And if that is the case, it's time to move on.
Yes. So who greatly impacted your life?
Oh, everybody. Seems strange, but it is, like I started off saying, that it's not just the positive people, but it's also the people who have, done some things to hurt me that have impacted my life, because they've either made me stronger or taught me what not to do. But let's give some examples. I grew up, I am from Philadelphia. I am from North Philly. I grew up in Mount Airy. I have an older sister, and my parents were married growing up. They got a divorce, I think, when I was 8, but my father was an addict. He was a heroin and cocaine addict and an alcoholic, and he was abusive to my mother. So my sister and I saw a lot of abuse growing up, physical, emotional, financial abuse growing up. But I knew at a very young age that I knew at a very young age that that I needed to understand like what was going on. And so I knew that my parents were not meant to be married, but that they would be better off apart and friends, but not together and married. So that was the case. My father did get clean, and he did, go through the processes and the steps to get help and the things that he needed to heal. So that part. But my parents were very influential to me. My father, very smart, very proud man, was a, kind of pick yourself up with your bootstraps and move on type of guy. He came from a lot of poverty and a lot of situations that he needed to heal from. But seeing him take those steps, regardless if I think he was in his 40s or 50s when he took those steps, whenever he did, he still took those steps. Like, it wasn't too late. And then, my mother raising my sister and I through all of that. My mother got pregnant with my sister when she was 16. And so having two girls growing up, it was all about what we weren't going to do. We were not going to make the mistakes that she made growing up. So she was very stern. We're really good friends now, but growing up, there was no room to be friends with my mother. She was not having that. She was going to be our mother and keep us, on a path. And so definitely my mother and my father were influential. My family, I come from a very large family, and we're all a bit comedic. We all have big personalities, but there's a lot of love. And there's, of course, none of us are perfect, and we have our issues, but have a very loving family, and we get together and we love to be near each other. And my family is very influential for me. I would also say, I talked about being in some very emotionally abusive relationships, and I was friends with a guy, and kind of in grad school and coming out of grad school, and our relationship was completely unhealthy. And I started going to Sharon Baptist Church around this time, and I remember when I started going to Sharon, I was so broken. Sometimes I would literally get up and would have like parts of my pajamas on, get on the bus just to get to church. And I would just be sitting there in tears. But I knew that's where I needed to be. And Bishop Reed would be preaching about something, and I would be like, how? Like, he would be preaching about, getting through and getting to the other side. And I would be sitting there like, how do I do that? Like, I want to be there, but how do I do it? How do I get there? But I kept going. And my bishop is not perfect at all. And I know a lot of people have a lot to say about him, but that man, intentionally, unintentionally, whatever, and through his staff, poured into me. I got to the point where I could understand that it was a choice. It was a choice about getting to the other side. It was, a choice waking up every day and either being gloom and glum or, realizing the blessings that God had for me. And 20 years later, I'm still there. And I say he and his staff because there was a pastor there, Pastor Reggie Johnson, who, and this was like at the height of Sharon. There were 4,000 something members. And Pastor Reggie would see me one Sunday and say, Ninette, I didn't see you last Sunday. There are two services, there are 4,000 people. How do you remember not seeing me? But God was showing me you are not invisible, because I felt invisible. There were days where I would wake up like, I don't want to die. I knew I couldn't kill myself, but I was like, I just don't want to be here. I just want to be in a coma. I just want to be asleep. I just don't want to engage in life for a while. And I would be like, I would be waiting for the train. It's like, if I step out in front of the train, I can't control whether I get killed or whether I just get seriously hurt. And I just want to be seriously hurt. I just want to be in a coma. I just don't want to be here. And Pastor Johnson would tell me he didn't see me, and I'd be like, so I'm not invisible? People do see me? Out of 4,000 people on a Sunday where he's moving about in 2 services, he notices that he didn't see me. So God started to show me, right, that I wasn't invisible. But that was, Bishop Reed and his staff and Pastor Reggie and Sharon Baptist Church pouring into me even unintentionally, like people speaking to me and showing me you're not invisible. So they definitely influenced me. And my husband, I don't even know if he remembers. We were just dating. We would be at school a lot, doing work. And I remember one day he just out of the blue said, I am the right man for you because I don't mind you being out in the spotlight and me being in the background. What is this man talking about? Like, this was 3 years before I even thought about leaving the job. It's like, what is he talking about? But he said that, and he was then speaking something into my life and telling me, like, go ahead and do you, be who you're supposed to be. I'm okay with that. And he tells me every once in a while, and he reminds me, I believe in you. I'm proud of you. You are good at what you do, and it's not easy, but I'm here. And that's incredible to me. And of course, I have a sister, and one of the things that she does is she allows me to be an aunt to the most beautiful boys in the world. And I get teared up talking about them. My husband and I don't have children. It was a huge health risk for me to have children. So, we elected to have surgery. And so that is not something that I can have biological children. So being an aunt to those 2 boys is amazing. And having my sister allow me to be such an integral part of their life, my sister and my brother-in-law is one of life's biggest joys. So I would say that those are, now I've had 2 mentors, Nancy and Mike, who saw the potential in a little Black girl, and gave me responsibility and respect beyond my years and my experience, and poured into me when they absolutely didn't have to. And I think that that's incredible. And they have shaped me. I'm still in contact with them today, to this day, and they have absolutely shaped me professionally. And then to all the naysayers, of course, they just push me to be better.
So what do you need to be a greater impact?
To be a greater impact, I think it's not worrying about what I don't have and concentrating on what I do. I think that a lot of times, specifically for me, but I'm going to say this for, I don't know if it's women or Black women or what, but sometimes we concentrate on not being enough. And I tell myself all the time, people ask the question, if you had to tell your younger self something, what would it be? And I always say, you are enough. You are good enough. You are pretty enough. You are smart enough. And it doesn't mean that, you don't strive for more, that you don't do more, that you don't have this continuous improvement and this lifelong learning zeal. But so often people try to tell you that you're not enough, like who you are is just not enough. It's like, you're an A-. You can't be an A+. First of all, who are you to grade me? Secondly, yes. I am an A+. It's funny. Somebody was giving me an example of about men one day. And I'm like, men, they could really love chicken, but every once in a while they want steak. And I turned around to them and I said, I am the steak. And even if I don't always believe that, I don't always have that, but I always have that reminder. No, tell yourself you are the steak. I tell myself and I tell my mentees to tell themselves, I deserve to not settle for less than I deserve. Right? So I think that what I need to be a bigger impact is just continuing to have those mantras and to tell myself and to believe that I am enough. you know, what God gives me is sufficient. And believing that and walking in that and not worrying about what I don't have, not worrying about if I'm smart enough, if I'm good enough, if I have enough, if the money's going to be enough, not worrying about that and just doing it, I will be a greater impact. And then also not chasing the dollars. If I chase my passion, the dollars will come. And being an impact is not about dollars. It's about sharing who I am. So.
Well, Mrs. Bennett, thank you so much for sharing your impactful story.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Be blessed.
You as well. Thank you, Miss Jessie. Take good care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.